where I do have a problem with our current culture right now is we've got an RFK health department. We've got a Del Bigtree run MAHA movement. We've got a Marty McCary led FDA. We've got a Dr. Oz. Like we've got buzzwords all over the place, who are really, in my opinion, and you know, and I will say that, like, I know a lot of these people. Like, we work with them in a lot of ways, and while I'm not I don't think any of them are on a witch hunt. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's this polarization that's taken place. And I'll specifically say MAHA because I'm curious your thoughts on this, but this MAHA movement about making America healthy. And I'm like, why is anyone against that? Like MAHA has unfortunately turned into, you know, Trump supporters. And it's like, no, I don't think that's the case. I think there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, like Bobby Kennedy moving his support over to Trump, I think actually helped Trump win the election, because there were such a huge group of people that are like, look, we don't care who's president. We want a healthy country. And if Bobby's going to do that, then let's go follow Bobby wherever he goes.
Yeah. And to add to that, the world population of kids with autism, so the world in general, there's about 1% of the population in the world has autism. But in United States, over 3%. That is 3%, 3.24% now with the new stats. So it's like, why are we
Something's
3 times?
Here.
Yeah, exactly.
And what bothers me with it is that when we talk about, I mean, autism's turned political, and I can't wrap my head around that, to be honest with you. Like, and I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Mm-hmm. If you're making autism political, knock it off. Like I agree. That's my belief. Yeah. Like. And I mean, I saw a thing recently with Elizabeth Warren, and I don't like Elizabeth Warren anyways, but, you know, and she's like, we love autistic people. And I'm like, sweetheart, I love autistic people too, but it doesn't mean I want more of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like no one's mad at the people who already have autism. I mean, I love people with cancer too, but I'm not wishing it on anybody else.
Exactly,
like, why is this even, why is that even a talking point?
Yeah, well, it seems to be, as we dig deeper into it, there seems to be a class of people, because I often spend time so I can, you know, better serve the community that that follow me or whatever. I look at a lot of Facebook forums, and oftentimes you see parents who, there's like 2 groups where they have a level 1 autistic child, which was formerly known as Asperger's, and then you have the 2 and 3s. So the level ones, different. It's the 2 different worlds. A little
one
cutesy.
Has weird social skills. One lives in diapers.
And that exactly. So when you see those 2 components, oftentimes when you see autism, it's the one of, you know, the love on the spectrum. So you see them and you're like, oh, they just want to be accepted like everyone else. But the challenge is that usually the people on the other side are, you know, our lives are extremely difficult, right? And before these interventions that we put in place with Jason, that was our life. Or it was, how do we navigate this? How do we still, you know, not feel guilty when we're upset for, you know, for not being there, or not mentally being there like we would with a typical child for our son, and we have to take those mental breaks. Like, how do we still navigate this whole thing? So I think there's just those 2 components. And once we realize that, then I think we can isolate why everyone's saying, well, autism is fine, you know, because they just say, oh, it's just a little quirky thing, when really it's a big, giant spectrum, where on the other side of the spectrum, there's people who are suffering, and it's not just the children.
Well, I mean, I'll give you an example. My dad's best friend from high school, his son is like institutional level 3. Mm-hmm. Like, he's a giant kid now, and he's in his 20s. And it's like every time his parents pick him up, like, he nearly beats his mother to death. Like, Emily has just gotten abused by him, because if you do anything he doesn't like, he just physically lashes out. And he'd always been like that. Like, their house was always a shambles, because there wasn't anything in the house that Christopher hadn't destroyed out of some kind of whatever, because there was zero emotional control, right? Yeah. And it was, he wears headphones all the time, because just auditory stimulus is just more than he can take. So he goes around life with headphones. Like, he's, you know, his facial affect is very off. You know, so he's clearly this, you know, level 2, level 3 autistic as opposed to an Asperger's person, right? Like
Yeah.
Asperger's, I have friends who I'm convinced have Asperger's, right? And it's just like,
Yeah.
then you just kind of tease about their inability to pick up social cues, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. There's a big spectrum. And I know the word Asperger's is no longer supposed to be used, and we're supposed to strike that from the language too. It's been canceled, whatever. But you're right. There's a wide range of variants here. The same with cancer, right?
Yeah.
Like having a mole removed is very different from having pancreatic cancer that's aggressive. Like we also can't speak about that on a spectrum too.
Exactly.
We've got to be realistic about this. But my question to you is, what do you see in the school systems? And I want to get into a conversation about IEP Central and what you're doing there, because I want to steer this back to in your pain as your purpose.
Yeah.
But what are you seeing in the school systems as it's responding to this, I'll say, overwhelming amount of children that are being brought into the school system that the school system wasn't designed for?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so what I do, my job every day is a sport facilitator. So I have plenty of kids on my caseload that have ASD. But what comes with that is I have a morning duty, right? So that means I'm just going around and I'm monitoring this particular area. And in the next area with the next group of teachers that are dealing with, they have this morning area, and it's literally about, I would say, around 28 chairs, and that houses our ASD cluster. And this is going to be from I would say first grade all the way to fifth grade, and it's 28 kids completely there. And I always think that's a lot of kids. That's a lot of kids. I'm 28 right there. Not to mention my son's class, because he goes to school with me. My son's class, whenever they go to the playground, that there's like 50 kids on the playground, and I'm like, that's a lot of kids that all have ASD. They're all diagnosed. They're all on some level, whether level, we usually don't house level 3s, but 1 or 2, they all have ASD. So that's what we're seeing when in the
Sure, but
school
out of
system.
1,500 kids that are at that school, 50 of them are in a special ed class.
Yeah.
Like over 3% of the population. Like I don't like those odds.
Yeah. And that's multiplied through most schools in Broward County. So this is not just, our
Sure.
school. This is the school down the street, the other school across the road.
Every school's having the same issue.
And they're having, and then the hardest thing, the biggest thing that's facing it is that there's not enough professionals. There's not enough people to train. There's not enough people who are willing to do that, because ultimately you're signing up for a whole different job when you're dealing with in a cluster situation, which is a self-contained classroom. That's a whole different job than, what you think of teaching is. So you'll go to school and you'll say, okay, I'm going to do this awesome lesson. And then all of a sudden you look at your clientele and that lesson may never happen. Right. And you may almost feel like a babysitter, where you're just pushing the needle on certain behaviors instead of actually teaching. And that's kind of how it looks when it comes to the cluster level. Now, when you have in the school system, it's 3 levels. You have your general education, you have your supported, and then you have your specialized. So the specialized is where we have, all of the kids in the cluster, and then they're in that safe self-contained. Then there's the inclusion process, which is where I come in and I support the teacher in developing the IEP and then also implementation. So we implement it. So I'll see the kid and we'll do certain activities, either behaviorally or academically, to help that student maintain their position in an inclusion classroom. And then you'll have your general ed, where those kids are usually not in those areas, but sometimes they might.
So, and I hate to say it, but like the school systems have gone into a segregation model.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately what we've done, we've taken all of the outliers and put them in a room by themselves. And it doesn't matter if they're 1st or 5th grade, we just put them all in one room.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a penal colony. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, but unfortunately they're the neurodivergents and aren't allowed to be with the other children. And then we say it's for their own benefit.
Yeah.